I'm Don Clancy, and this is Heartbeat. Today we're going to be exploring two very serious questions. First, senior citizens are twice as likely to be injured or killed in a fire than the rest of the population. Second, senior citizens, it's estimated that about 7,000 senior citizens die from falls each year. So these are really serious subjects, so pay attention. We're visiting today with Lisa Bezella. Did I pronounce that right?
Bezella.
Bezella.
Yes,
Okay.
close.
Bezella. She is the public education and information officer here at the Schaumburg Fire Department. Lisa, thank you very much for having us over.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm very excited to share some information with your viewers.
Great. Before we get into the details of these two really serious questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the department?
Okay, well, I am the Public Education and Information Officer, like you mentioned. I'm going into my third year in this position. I have a background in teaching, which is what they were looking for, because I spend most of my time teaching. And so I kind of work on the prevention end. I'm trying to prevent fires in the community, prevent accidents and injuries, so we have fewer of those kinds of calls. So I spend most of the school year in the schools, in all the Schaumburg schools, teaching from kindergarten through fourth grade, teaching fire safety and life safety skills to the kids there. And then in the summers, I'm doing training in the high rises for people, evacuation training,
really?
And also going to the daycares, teach those kids, and just all kinds of different initiatives and programs that we work
Sounds
on.
interesting.
It is.
Lisa, why do you think senior citizens are at such a higher risk level?
In terms of fires, there's a lot of times mobility issues, whereas younger people are able to escape a fire. Sometimes it's harder for older adults to be able to
Just
get
moving
out.
around
Yeah,
sometimes,
just moving
right?
around. And then with falls, very similar. The bodies are changing, differences in the way you walk, your balance, your perception. Sometimes medications can affect your balance, and so that's puts them at higher risk.
Yeah, I can understand that myself. I think I started a fire in my stove one day, and I had to put that out. So, by the way, what are some of the tips that we can pass on to the viewers, so maybe to prevent some of these fires?
Okay, well, even before we get into preventions of fires, one of the most important things we like to focus on is smoke alarms. Those are one of the most important things to have in your home to keep you safe, because they'll give you early warning of a fire, so you do have that time to get out. So
where's the best place to put those?
Well, you do want to have smoke alarms on every level of your home, for sure. You want to have them outside of the sleeping areas, so if there's a hallway or anywhere that somebody sleeps, and then in the bedrooms as well, to have those in there. So you really need more than one. We also, of course, you have to test them regularly to make sure they work, because it's not going to do any good if they don't work. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So test them at least once a month or per the manufacturer's instructions. Make sure they work. Replace the batteries if you have the kind that still has a replaceable batteries. Now, they make the kind now with the 10-year lithium batteries. In fact, in Illinois, by 2023, we're all going to be required to have either those 10-year batteries that you can't take out, you can't remove, but
I look forward to that.
They last. So if you're in the market for a new smoke alarm, buy the 10-year. And then you don't have to replace those batteries. You do still need to check them. But by 2023, we're all required to either have those or hardwired smoke alarms, which are great to have if you happen to have a home that has them hardwired. So have that in place. Have your carbon monoxide alarms as well, because if you have any gas burning appliances in your home, you know, that the combustion of those fuels can lead to carbon monoxide if it's not working properly. That can get into your home. That's a poisonous gas.
I'm glad you mentioned that because last year a neighbor of mine, the parents were off at work and they had one teenage son at home, and he was doing the laundry and drying, and the dryer caught on fire.
Okay, yes.
And I guess it's from the filters or something, or the elements in there. But anyhow, it caught on fire, and it did major damage to the home. The family could not move back into that house for about 6 months.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, fortunately no one was injured. He and his brother got out, and and waited for the parents to share the news with them. But it was a real shock, and I think generally in the neighborhood, everybody was checking their dryers after that for a period of time.
Sure, you can't get those cleaned out.
Yeah.
You don't want the lint to build up. You definitely want to clean the lint filter after every load. But we also don't advise you to leave the dryer on if you leave the house or go to sleep for the same reason. I mean,
that's a good point.
He was probably awake and able to respond, call 911.
I think I probably do that sometimes, so that's a good tip.
Yeah, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend. Just try to get it done before you go to bed or leave the house.
There's nothing like heading to the golf course after a long, hard winter, and opening day is finally here. Tee it up at the Schaumburg Park District golf courses, Walnut Greens, and the Schaumburg Golf Club. After you've enjoyed a day in the sun, stop by the newly renovated Chandler's Chop House for a delicious meal. Chandler's Chop House is located at the Schaumburg Golf Club. You can't beat a day of golf and good food. Learn more at parkfun.com.
What are some other tips that to prevent fires that you can tell us about?
Well, the top cause of fires by far in Schaumburg, Illinois, in the United States is cooking.
Yes.
Makes sense. We're using a lot of heat. Most people do it daily. That's 44% of fire calls in Schaumburg.
Yes, and I think I read somewhere that Thanksgiving is probably the worst day for calls, and Christmas is right behind it, which makes sense because they're in there making those big meals, hopefully.
Yes, and you might be distracted because there's a lot of things going on, people around, so very good. Yes, so the number one reason we have those fires is because people are walking away from the stovetop or leaving their cooking unattended.
Okay.
So definitely if you're frying or sauteing, you definitely want to stand by your pan the whole time. That way you're seeing what's going on. You can adjust the heat if needed. We also recommend you keep a lid near the pan. So if there was a small fire to start, you could turn off the heat, cover the pan with the lid, and if you take oxygen away from a fire, it will go out. So that's a tip that we use.
I started one on my stove. I was cooking some kind of chicken Kiev, I guess it was, and I guess I didn't put it on the right kind of pan or something.
It was dripping down.
And it was dripping down, and I stepped into the living room and I stepped back because I do stay in the kitchen when the rare occasions when I'm cooking, and I looked up there and the screen was just full of fire, and I said, oh God, now what do I do? Fortunately, I turned it off and opened it up, and I did have a pan that I could put on, so it knocked it out right away. But I would amen that one real quick.
Okay, yes. And we also recommend you keep the oven door closed if a fire starts again because you're not introducing more oxygen.
Oh, okay.
You definitely don't want to try to take it out and move around the house with a pan on fire. But always call 911 if you're concerned if it's not going out or if you just want them to check to make sure everything's gone out and safe. Yeah. So, but things like if you did have something in the oven, we all if you're leaving it in there for a long time, you might forget. If you sit down and watch TV or you get on a phone call or something, take a timer with you or take a spatula or a oven mitt to remind you I have something in the oven because I think all of us have.
I have trouble with that. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a good idea. And I don't use the timer, but often I put something in the oven and then I go in the room for a few minutes and the next thing I know it's a half hour later than I should have been in there to checking it out. So I do that. So I'm going to start using a timer.
Yeah,
That's
so
a good
other
idea.
people have said that that's helpful. So
Yeah.
I think we all do that when we're so busy and we got a lot going on. But so yeah, just paying attention, being there, making sure there's nothing on the stovetop that is going to catch on fire. You know, no towels, rags, oven mitts, packaging, food packaging. Even if you have an electric stovetop, actually those are even more sometimes the cause of fires. I think because people don't see the flame and don't realize how hot it is, but that kind of heat can start something on fire. So
Occasionally I do leave the burner on and surprise myself when I go back in there and see I didn't turn it off.
yeah, so just make sure you don't have anything that can burn near there.
Yeah.
So that's very
I
important.
should be
too.
writing these tips down.
Well, we have a lot of tips online on
Okay.
Schaumburg.com. If you go to the fire department section, we have a whole education section with tips and things like
I'm gonna have
that.
to visit
So
that.
yeah, visit that. Other types of fires that we respond to, or different kinds of appliance fires, and so that includes like fans, toasters, air conditioners, things like that. Those are a lot less common than cooking, but those do happen. Also, what we've seen lately around Schaumburg is the improper disposal of ashes or cigarettes. And that's caused a few fires lately, where especially if you've been grilling or you have a fire in your fire pit, and if you take out those ashes before they're completely cool, and it can take over 2 days to completely
really? 2
cool.
days?
Yeah, people don't realize that. But we've had people who haven't waited those 2 days, but they've doused it with water and then put it next to their homes in maybe their garbage bin or something, and it's still not cooled down, and that can start a
goodness.
fire, and we've had that spread to the home as well. So make sure that your ashes are completely cool, and then put them in a metal container for a few more days until you dispose of them.
A neighbor of mine had his barbecue thing, and he had it probably too close to the building. And it didn't start a fire, but it did melt the siding.
Okay, yeah,
the
that's
vinyl
definitely
siding.
too close. Yeah, keep those things away from your structures, any structures, your sheds or your home as well,
Absolutely.
your deck. I did want to mention that we do have a home safety visit program in Schaumburg.
Yes, I understand. Could you tell us just a little bit about that?
Sure, I definitely can. This is a great program, especially for older adults. The fire department will come out free of charge to check your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide alarms, make sure you have them in the right places, make sure you have the right number, make sure they're working. And if they're not working or you don't have enough, we install them for free. We work with the Red Cross. The Red Cross actually provides the smoke alarms, and so we can get those.
How does one go about activating that or making that happen?
You can call the fire department.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll probably be able to put the number up on the screen.
We'll be able to put the non-emergency number up.
Yeah, yeah. So just call and schedule it. They'll give you a short time frame that they'll come out. They'll also check for any hazards in the home that they might see and point those out to you. Both fire hazards and fall hazards. They'll talk to you a little bit about fall prevention.
Well, that's good. Let's turn our attention to falls, because that's a big issue. I guess there's a lot of calls for falls.
Yes, yes. So same thing throughout the country, but in Schaumburg, that's our number one reason for emergency calls. It's 10% of all our calls overall, and then 16%, 15 to 16% of our emergency calls, our EMS calls, are for falls. So, there's several per day.
My goodness,
different ways.
What kind of tips can we give people to avoid those things?
Well, some of the things you want to do are most falls occur in the home, so look at your home first and check for fall hazards. Make sure people aren't leaving things on the floor like shoes and books and papers. Make sure there aren't any cords running across the floor that are in the way. Make clear paths for walking around. If you have any loose steps or anything, make sure you get those taken care of.
Do stairs, imagine a lot of falls are a result of going down the stairs.
You know what? It's not as many as you would think. Actually, the number one place for falls is in the bathroom.
Oh, and that's why they suggest you install these hand
So the grab
devices,
bars,
grab bars,
are a good idea. Make sure you have those installed properly. You also want to have good lighting. So I think that kind of can sometimes go, people getting up maybe in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's dark, they're not seeing where they're walking. So make sure that you have a night light. Make sure that your stairs are well lit, the rest of
Good
your home is
shoes.
well lit. Good shoes, sturdy shoes, no flip flops. We had a discussion about that at a focus group last week. So with the older adults, he said maybe it's time to stop wearing the flip flops.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. So that's one of the things you can look at. Another is just to try to maintain your balance and flexibility and strength as you
Yeah.
get older, because that's going to help you keep your balance and keep from falling. So that's research has shown that exercise programs like Tai Chi that aren't
Tai Chi,
very
yeah.
strenuous,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they do emphasize balance and flexibility.
Probably
They
a
have-
good idea to talk to your doctor and see what he says is appropriate.
Definitely. Check
Otherwise,
with your
I'd go out
doctor.
lifting weights. I'd be in bad shape, I think.
Yes, work with your abilities
Yeah,
is
work
with
with your
everything. But now you say talk to your doctor about your risk for falls. You might be on medications or have a health condition that could make you more prone to falling. So what can you do to prevent that? Maybe when you get up, either from sitting or laying, take a few seconds or 30 seconds to get your blood pressure.
Move a little slower,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sit up before you just get right up, because that's when we sometimes have balance problems.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I think I've been there a couple of times myself.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common. That's why we're talking about it, right? But those
Yeah.
are some of the things if you become conscious of and aware of, you can make little differences that can lower your fall risk.
Yes, and that's certainly something we want to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, because that can affect your ability to live independently, can cause long-term problems.
Yes.
A fall can be very
Sure,
serious, especially as you age. So to
Yeah.
prevent as many as we can, and we are actually working because we are in the prevention side of things.
Yeah.
We're trying to tackle falls as well to reduce some of those. So we've just started working on getting a program together. Right now, we're meeting with some of the community organizations. So these are people that are very experienced in helping people with either exercise programs, nursing type programs. And so there's a lot of resources available. So
Yeah.
the fire department is trying to do is kind of let people know about these resources, get them connected so they can see what they can do.
That's great. That's really great. I also understand you're working with the senior committee. They're going to have some kind of a program in the fall.
Yes. So
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We have a committee called Serving Our Seniors in Schaumburg, and so we thought that's a great place to start. They already work on a lot of other issues that are important to seniors. So we're going to hold a fall prevention fair at the end of September 24th at the Schaumburg Township District Library from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. It will be in the library's program brochure when that comes out for the fall.
So people should probably call the library after it's out there and
Yes.
register for that program. I
Yes,
would
definitely
think,
call and register. We'll have the first hour you'll be visiting with community organizations, vendors, like you were talking about the grab bars. We're going to have a company there that sells and installs those. So if you have questions about what's the right way to install them and that. And other experts, we're going to have just different people who have a lot of knowledge, so you can talk to them. And then at 10:30 to 11:30, we're going to have a presentation by a physical therapist who's going to go through just a lot of different ways we can help lower our fall risks.
Well, is there anything else, Lisa, that we should pass on to our viewers before we get out of here?
I mean, I could go on all day with prevention information, but let's see. We covered, it's just, there's a lot more on the website.
Okay, so if people want more information, they can go to the website. Anything else they should do?
Just-
Certainly attend that fair on the September
Certainly
24th.
come to the Fall
yes,
Prevention
yes.
Fair. We're also having an open house the first Saturday in October.
Okay.
If you haven't been to the public safety open house, it's a great way to meet some of the firefighters, some of the police officers right there.
Where's that held?
It's right there by the police department
Okay.
headquarters, 950, I believe, West Schaumburg Road.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a fire station there, and we have a police station there. And we bring all our trucks and engines and interesting things to see. So come join us for that as well.
Hey, we're talking with
Scott Robertson.
Scott. We just found out that this is your last day at work. Are you retiring?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's wonderful. How long have you worked for the fire department?
40 years with Schaumburg.
40 years. Well, that's a good term.
Yeah, I believe so.
Anything you want to share with the viewers?
The only thing I recommend is be nice to your firemen. Main thing is, if you have children, is to teach them a little bit of fire safety. It's the main thing. Everybody doesn't realize that we put a mask on and then our gear, and then it's under smoky conditions if you're in your house. So we look a little bit like Darth Vader. That's what I tell my grandkids. And it's a good idea to take full benefit of the programs that we do have here in the village with checking up with Fire Prevention Week, and then you can come by the firehouse anytime and talk to the firemen and get a little idea on what does happen during a fire and the safety things that you can do to hopefully save your family.
That's really good. You guys are our heroes, and I want to thank you for your 40 years of service for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty.
This has been a presentation of Heartbeat. I'm Don Clancy. We'd like to dedicate this segment to the past firefighters, the present ones, and the future ones. They're part of our hero group. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.